Another Brick fan here with a collectible minifigure series. This is Marvel Series 2. This is set 71039. It was released in September 2023. It has 111 pieces, 12 minifigures, and they were now included in a blind box that costs about $5 each. So it would cost you about $60 if you could get all of them on the first go-round. Of course, being in a box, it's impossible to feel, without destroying the box anyway, to feel out the characters. Now, I've seen some bad things out there with people opening up these sets in the store and then just leaving the open ones behind. There's been a few reports of that, as well as stores going ahead and opening them and selling them as specific characters for a premium price, which honestly might be worth it depending on how much the markup is. There are some techniques for weighing and for looking at the codes on the bottom of the packages. I checked out these methods in a previous video, so I'll leave a link here to take a look at it, but I still found those pretty unreliable. So as always, I have a few of these figures that I like quite a bit. Starting with Moon Knight, I think that figure just turned out excellent. The printing on that's really cool. I like the hood piece, and I really like the weapon and the scarab that he has with him. I think those turned out really well. I'm also a big fan of the X-Men from the 80s, the new X-Men that started with, I think, X-Men number 99, somewhere in there. So there are 3 characters from that, which includes Beast, Storm, and Wolverine, which are all really great figures as well. Now let's go in and take a closer look at each of these figures. Here are the first 2 minifigures from this series. This is Agatha Harkness and Moon Knight, also known as Mark Spector, who is one of the personalities in Moon Knight. Now there are several accessories here. Here's a little book accessory, and inside is this other little printed tile, which is really nice. Of course, one of these power pieces that flicks off. Moon Knight has this crescent-shaped weapon here, as well as a golden scarab. As you can see, really nice printing on both of these figures. Here's Agatha with the purple and blue, really nice kind of detailed necklace here. They both have these soft felt capes, which are nice. This is kind of a standard messy hair look, and of course she's got a wink going on here. Moon Knight has the really nice printing here with the gold accents, which I thought turned out very nicely. The hood piece with the moon on it. So it's kind of a mummified look, if you will. No side printing on Agatha, but you can see, once again, some of these moon symbols and the wrappings. The printing continues down the legs, which are dual molded. See, Agatha has the skirt or robe piece here. Of course, the backs of these figures do have some printing on the torsos, and in fact, Agatha has printing all the way down the skirt piece, which is nice to see because that's not done very frequently. And then, of course, the wrappings here on the back of Moon Knight. Now, Moon Knight has the regular face here as his alternate expression, and here is Agatha with the 2 open eyes as opposed to the one winking eye. Continuing around, you see that there is still more side printing here on Moon Knight. So there are our first 2 figures. Next up we have Mr. Knight and Werewolf by Night. Mr. Knight is in this nice all-white business suit with kind of a stocking type cap here, or stocking cover for his face. He has the silver bars here as weapons. He also comes with the goldfish tank, as you see here, which is a call out to the goldfish in his apartment, which I thought was well done. And then our Werewolf by Night comes with this little piece here. Now, I have not watched this show for Werewolf by Night, so I'm assuming this is some kind of gem, it looks like. or maybe wolf's bane. So unfortunately I don't have a good context on that, but it is a nice little printed piece. Now Mr. Knight was another of personality of the main character. This character's name is Stephen Grant. So he had, I think they actually showed 3 different personalities for him in the series. Now, of course, Werewolf by Night came out in the 1970s and had his own comic book in 2020. And then it became a Disney Plus series as well, which, as I said, I didn't watch. But I do like the figure. It's a good werewolf look here. Kind of a messy hair look, almost like Ron Weasley's hair wig. It's very similar anyway. Has the dual molded legs. It looks like the printing even down to the toes. There's some side printing here with the fur, and then the cut off, kind of the torn shorts look or torn pants look here. Now, Mr. Knight does not have an alternate expression, as you may expect, just a little bit of detail here in the back. And then our Werewolf by Night has his fangs bared here in his alternate face. Dual molded legs, as I pointed out. Good printing along the sides as well. I like the little ear pieces here. So there's an ear on the kind of molded into the hair, which is nice, at least the one ear. You see the ears on both sides kind of coming out. So that's a nice little touch for his hairpiece. Next up we have She-Hulk and Hawkeye, or Clint Barton here. And as you can see, She-Hulk comes with a cell phone here. Looks like Wong is calling her. And then it looks like a case file. So this is a nicely done like legal case file on Email Blonsky. I really like this small owl that comes with Hawkeye. So it's kind of in the same kind of design as the Harry Potter owls, yet this is a smaller, like baby type owl or younger owl, or maybe just a smaller breed of owls. Of course, Hawkeye has got to have a bow and arrow. And you can see that he has one gloved hand and one ungloved hand. I thought the pink accent there on his uniform is kind of interesting. It's probably from the series. And then, of course, She-Hulk here in her white and purple outfit as well. The green hairpiece here. Looks like Clint Barton here is kind of beat up a little bit. The bandage there on his face. Side printing for both of these characters. And dual molded legs here on She-Hulk with the black and white. Of course, a little bit of printing that's covered up by the arrows here for Hawkeye. Both these characters have alternate expressions. Looking a little happier, I would say, for both of these alternate expressions. The back printing, I think, is very consistent there on She-Hulk. So that was nice. Once again, side printing for both characters. So 2 more very good characters, also from Disney Plus series as well. Next up we have Kate Bishop, who ultimately takes on the mantle of Hawkeye as well. And she, of course, has a bow and arrow, and it looks like a pizza box here, which I think were common in some of the Marvel sets. That same pizza box has been in several Spider-Man sets. This is Goliath. Of course, he has a nano figure here of Ant-Man, which I thought turned out pretty nicely. That we got that. We've also gotten that in a couple of different sets. I think like the Avengers Endgame Final Battle, for example. Goliath does come with this really nice helmet and the good printing, of course. Here, Goliath is also known as Bill Foster, who appeared in the second Ant-Man movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp, as one of Hank Pym's colleagues who actually used a similar technology, or maybe even Pym particles, to grow instead of shrink. And then he does come with a normal minifigure head here and a hairpiece, so you can replace the helmet with a hairpiece here. Kate Bishop, of course, was seeking out Hawkeye to hopefully be trained by him and ultimately take over for him as Hawkeye. And she has this good printing and side printing here on this arm. Good side printing, as you can see, on Goliath as well. Nice printing even goes down the legs. Looks like Goliath's legs are dual molded as well. Good printing on the back of Goliath here. Obviously some printing underneath here for Kate Bishop, which is covered by her quiver. And then here are the alternate expressions for both of these characters. And then you notice that there is side printing on this leg, but not on this arm. So she only has side printing on one arm, where Goliath is pretty consistent on both sides. So again, MCU characters from Hawkeye miniseries on Disney Plus, and then from the Ant-Man universe. Next up we have Echo, who's also known as Maya Lopez. She appeared in the Hawkeye series, but originally came from Daredevil. And it turns out, in the comic books at least, she was the daughter of Kingpin. She is a Native American and deaf, but her ability is to mimic or echo the movements of anybody she sees. So that's kind of her special ability, and the reason why she's, I guess, a superhero, although she was in charge of the tracksuit mafia. So definitely has some bad guy, good guy, kind of an anti-hero type thing. Next to her is Beast, also known as Hank McCoy or Dr. Philip McCoy. You can see he has an X-Men coffee cup and what looks like some kind of microscope, which is brick built. I'm very partial to the new X-Men, if you will, that started in the mid-80s. I think Beast actually was one of the founding members of the X-Men, which originally came out in 1963, but then in the 80s they came up with a new team that included Storm and Wolverine, which are also included in this series. So it's good to see them. I read a lot of those comic books, so it's good to see these characters in their classic 80s look. And again, Beast has this really good printing that goes all the way down through between the torso and the legs. I think it matches up really well. This hairpiece with the integrated ears, as you'll see as we move around him, is really well done. Side printing here on Echo, as you can see, both on her arm and on her leg. She has this nice long braid in the back for her hairpiece. One dual molded leg here, so you got the black, but then with black and a silver here. Notice the back of the hair has printing, which is kind of unusual, but I think turned out really nicely here. Some good back printing and her alternate expression. And then, of course, here is Dr. Pym wearing his glasses. Excuse me, Dr. McCoy, or Beast, wearing his glasses. So good alternate expressions for both these characters. And like I mentioned, you see the darker hair here, the black hair that kind of defines the ear that is in that hairpiece on the side. So once again, two very nice characters. I'm very partial to this, to the X-Men. I really like the way they did Beast here for this minifigure. Last up, we have two more X-Men. This is Storm, also known as Aurora Monroe. She has a lot of accessories, as you see her lightning bolts here. She has this very fancy cape piece that goes over her arms. Of course, the X-Men logos here. She has this shoulder. She has this shoulder piece here as well, and then this really nice mohawk piece. Wolverine is here in his yellow and blue costume, which was again from the original, or the new X-Men when he first joined the X-Men, and that was around 1974, 1975, I think. And then the early 80s, of course, is when that series really took off. Been in multiple solo movies as well as the X-Men movies on Fox, but now that Disney has acquired Fox, they get the X-Men as part of their canon. Wolverine does come with this headpiece from a Sentinel. So if you remember from the movies or the comic books, the Sentinels were giant robots that the government built to capture and control mutants. And Logan or Wolverine was not very fond of them and certainly took them apart whenever he had the opportunity. Once again, really good printing here. Wolverine's traditional, if you will, outfit with the black and yellow for the headpiece or his helmet that he wears, and then yellow and blue around here with the X-Men symbol on it. Of course, Wolverine's got some good printing here. He's got those claw pieces used here. The dual molded legs with the yellow and blue, as you can see. And then here's that fancy cape piece for Storm. Once again, that nice soft material. And the back printing there, the really nice mohawk piece, which doesn't allow for an alternate expression. But here's Logan with an alternate expression. You can see there's more of the whites, like you see with like many of the characters that wear helmets. So that you don't see their eyes underneath, you just see the white underneath the helmet, which I think turned out very nicely. So now that we've looked at all 12 minifigures close up, let's go back and I'll give you my final thoughts on this minifigure series. Overall, a nice Marvel series. Most of these characters have come from the Disney Plus series, and a few of them are actually very new to the MCU, with the X-Men being added because of the acquisition of Fox. So it's fun to see some of these new X-Men characters coming into the Marvel Universe. So excluding the X-Men, only Hawkeye and Goliath have actually appeared in MCU movies. All of these others were in Disney Plus series. She-Hulk, of course, had her own series. Werewolf by Night, his own series. The Moon Knight series. Agatha Harkness, as I mentioned, is scheduled for her own series, but she was in WandaVision. Finally, Kate Bishop and Echo were in the Hawkeye Disney Plus show. Hope you've enjoyed my thoughts on this collectible minifigure series. I'm going to get started on another video, and until then, happy building. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe to see more of my content. I've left a link to my other collectible minifigure reviews up here on the screen.